All right, let's dive right in. We're going to be talking about how to make reciting and memorizing the Quran not just easier, but a truly rewarding part of your life. We'll break down some core ideas that can totally transform your practice.
So, have you ever wanted to recite the Quran beautifully, but then you look at the rules of tajweed and just feel a little overwhelmed? Well, you're not alone. So many people feel that way. The good news is there's a much simpler way to approach it, and we're going to get into that right now.
So, first things first, we need to kind of reframe how we even think about these rules. It's really not about memorizing a dense textbook, it's more about finding a natural, beautiful rhythm. I just love this quote. It captures the whole spirit of tajweed perfectly, doesn't it? It's not about being super rigid and technical. It's about giving the recitation its intended flavor, its beauty. It's the art of finding that sweet spot, that perfect balance. And this is such a powerful way to think about it. Recitation is a physical skill. I mean, really think about that. Just like a runner trains their legs or a pianist trains their fingers, you're training your tongue. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger and more skilled with consistent practice, not overnight.
Okay, so with that foundation, let's get into probably the most common set of rules you're ever going to see. They all have to do with what happens when you come across a silent N sound, either from the letter noon with a sukun on it or from those tanween markings. The first rule, and honestly the simplest, is izhar. It just means clarity. So if that silent N sound comes right before one of these 6 throat letters, you do, well, nothing fancy. You just pronounce the N sound clearly. That's it, nice and simple. Next up, we have idgham, which means to merge. This is where things get interesting. Instead of saying that N sound, you basically blend it or melt it right into the sound of the next letter. And this happens when the next letter is one of these 6. But hold on, there's a little twist. This merging isn't always the same. It can happen in 2 really distinct ways. One way has a cool nasal sound, that's called gudna, and the other one doesn't. And this table here breaks it down beautifully. So, if the letter after your silent N is one of these 4, ya, noon, meme, or waw, you merge with that gunna, that nice nasal hum. But if it's a ra or a lam, you do a full merge. The N sound just disappears completely into the next letter. No nasal sound at all. Now for our third rule, iqlab, which is pretty unique. It literally means to flip. So whenever a silent N sound comes before the letter ba, you do a complete switcheroo. You flip that N sound and pronounce it as a light M sound instead. It's a total transformation. And finally, we've got the most common rule of all, ikhfa, or hiding. This one applies to the other 15 letters in the alphabet. Here, you're not making the N sound super clear, but you're not fully merging it either. You're hiding it. It creates this subtle, gentle nasal sound right as you get ready to say the next letter. It's kind of the middle ground. Okay, so knowing the rules is one thing, right? But making what you learn actually stay in your brain, that's a whole other challenge. So let's talk about a fantastic technique to make it all stick. The secret here is shifting gears from just passively reading the words on a page to actively engaging your senses. It's all about creating deeper, stronger connections in your brain, so what you're learning gets locked in tight.
And this right here is the big aha moment. The key is to build 2 different kinds of memory at the same time. You build your auditory memory by putting in time to just listen to how the verses are supposed to be recited by the experts. And at the same time, you build your visual memory by keeping your eyes glued to the text. What happens? Your brain starts to connect the beautiful sound of a verse with its specific shape and its exact location on the page. It's so powerful.
Now, let's take that visual memory idea and turn it into a practical hack you can start using today. This will make recalling what you've memorized almost effortless.
This is just brilliant. You're basically creating a visual map of the entire page. By just writing the first couple of words of each verse, you create these little mental triggers. So instead of trying to remember this huge, long block of text, your brain just has to remember the sequence of these little triggers, and boom, they unlock the rest of the verse for you. But let's be real for a second. We've all been there. That first burst of motivation is amazing. But what happens when it starts to fade? There's a word for this, futur. It's that slump, that spiritual fatigue that can hit you after a period of high activity. So, how do you push through that? This one idea can change everything. You have to reframe the whole effort. This isn't just another task on your to-do list that you can get tired of. It's a rizq,
a provision, a gift, a blessing that you're receiving. When you see it that way, it totally changes your relationship with the practice. Because at the end of the day, it's your internal state, your mindset. That's the engine that will power you through any slump. It all boils down to these two things: having a sincere intention, your why, and having high aspirations, truly, deeply believing that this is something you can achieve. And if you ever catch yourself thinking, oh, it's too late for me, or I'm too old to start, just remember the story of Imam al-Qasai. He started his deep dive into the Quran later in life, and he became an absolute legend, one of the greatest reciters. Your starting line doesn't define your finish line.
And that really brings us to the most important question. This whole journey isn't about perfection or making some giant leap tomorrow. It's about the sincerity behind your very next step. So, what is that one small, intentional step you can take today?